Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of MCreator Lore. So today what we're going to be actually working on is getting a temperature system set up. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the current system after we get to the end of the video, but I might tweak it a little bit depending on how it actually functions with the crops. So we might revisit it later on once we get to the crops, and probably in the next episode. So the first thing that I wanted to do was basically go ahead and create some of these procedures. Now I know that we added wind temperature and season temperature. So I want to integrate that into the actual global temperature, which will be basically calculating through a couple different variables. So I want to make sure that there is variables for Celsius and Fahrenheit, as this would allow more support for both temperature formats. And I was just basically setting up the variables for that. We'll set up a quick overlay at the end of the video as well. But I basically wanted to get the base mechanics set in, an overlay to basically be able to test it. And eventually what we'll do is we'll make a item or something like that we can actually open a GUI or toggle a display or something like that for the player that can basically see the temperature. So that's at least the basic idea that I wanted to do. Now I know that I wanted it based on the time of the current world. Now all this script will be running on the on-world tick update. Now we need that because basically we want to, all these variables are going to be on the world side, right? So this is going to need to be on the side here. Now I did try to make a calculation for the script, and this actually varied quite a bit because I wanted to create each one for the time for each thousands of a tick. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I can just do a day and night thing and then do a repeater or something like that. But in the end, I ended up tweaking it a little bit for the temperature. So basically my original idea was to basically divide this value, like the time, by 1,000 to get a solid number, and then we could basically use that solid number for a range between a certain number. Now that probably could have worked, but there was some issues with it that I experienced when I was setting this system up. So basically I revamped it a little bit when it came to this. Now I was originally going to create just a day and night system, but then I was like, okay, so we could go with the day and night and then revert it, but it just made more sense to do the night and then do an else statement, so every other time would basically count as the opposite. So that's what I was originally doing here when I was thought about that. And I think I stuck to a similar system, though I'm testing for all the actual hours, actually one tick off of every hour now. So that's basically what I ended up doing later on. But I was originally going to also add a multiplier, which would allowed me to shift the temperature a little bit. We might still go back and add that in the future, but I'm not entirely sure if I want to do that just yet, because I haven't thoroughly tested the temperature itself, and I need to go through all the seasons, all the hours, and all the days of the season and stuff like that for the temperature and stuff like basically I need to still test it, in short. So I'm not sure if a multiplier is really needed at the moment, but I was experimenting with this, and between here and a little bit later on, what I ended up doing is basically testing on and off the temperature and stuff like that. But I haven't really gotten into the testing just at this point, but I believe after a while I ended up just creating a basic overlay and setting up that so I could basically test it. We still needed to convert the temperature into Fahrenheit and also save it to a local variable, or a global variable, pardon me. So what I needed to do was basically go ahead and set the weather temperature, or not weather, the wind temperature and the season temperature. So these two right here. And if we go into here, I needed to calculate what was basically going on with all these scripts. I didn't take a note of what the temperature values were, and this will actually quite vary depending on the season and stuff too. So I needed to come up with quite a few different changes for the season temperature, because that basically impacts the global temperature for that particular season. So I made quite a few changes to the season temperature, which I'll cover probably in a little bit or in next video. So but the other thing that I needed was to basically go through all these settings, and I'm like, okay, well, this was 10, and I needed to adjust this a little bit so it was a little bit more balanced, and I needed to see if it was basically going to work with this. So I wasn't entirely sure, honestly, what I was doing. I was like just looking at the numbers and trying to figure out half the system and stuff like that. And from what I have picked up, the game is basically starting in summer for some reason. So I'll have to go back and try to figure out what's going on there, because I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure it has something to do with our variables and the way that we have it set up and stuff like that, but I have to go back and try to fiddle with it just so we can get it to work when first day of spring and everything like that, because I want it to start during the spring and then basically go to summer, fall, and then winter, and then spring again, but kind of like starting with spring and then ending with winter, like a regular calendar does. But yeah, so basically I was setting up the variables for the script. I was just adding some notes and stuff like that, trying to keep it organized so I know what everything is doing, and I needed to figure out what the values and stuff were. So I still needed to figure out exactly what the temperature was, like for the global temperature, what it would be, because the wind only decreases the value between like 0 and -10, and then the seasons have their own system. So I needed to figure out what was going on there. So basically what I've been doing is just calculating all this temperature part. This is important for understanding the mechanics and how it's going to play a role when the time is, everything like that is set up. So we might even change the system a little bit more depending on how the temperature system works. Basically what I wanted it to do was from midnight to 11 a.m. to increase the temperature, and then from noon to 11 p.m. decrease the temperature. So that was the general idea, but I don't know if it's actually working the way that I anticipated it. So the timing for the ticks and stuff like that for the actual script might be a little bit off, which might need a little bit of adjusting and stuff like that. So I might need to go back and play around with it to see if I can get that part working. That's mostly the part that I'm unsure about. Everything else seems to be working with the end script, but again, it's going to vary depending on how well my math and I know my math is not that good, so I'm not sure if it's going to be in working order at the current point of by the end of the video. So I'll try to work on that a little bit this weekend, and I'm also trying to stabilize CCTV Craft, one of my mods for Forge, before NeoForge comes out, because that will be coming out probably in the next update for MCreator. So I'm going to be starting something completely new for CCTV Craft on NeoForge, because there's a lot of performance problems with CCTV Craft, and I wanted to step back and redesign the system so it was a little bit more easier to maintain, as well as better for performance and offering a little bit more features and stuff like that. But trying to balance my schedule and everything based on trying to update this mod, and it's just like a nightmare because the work that I had ended up working on was just like not working, so I ended up having some issues and stuff like that. So basically what's going on here is this is the script for the seasons, and I needed to figure out what was going on. That last procedure down at the bottom was basically the conversion into Fahrenheit. So that's the math you needed to for Fahrenheit. It was like I don't actually have it on hand at the moment, but basically what it did was it was like multiplied Celsius multiplied by 1.8, and then you add 32 or something like that. And what that does is it converts it to Fahrenheit. So you were able to convert it easily into that particular measurement, and then you can just use Celsius as a baseline for the temperature. So that's basically what I ended up doing. So I needed a overlay for generating the display so we could actually see what was going on. So I needed to create a couple variables before I could do that, and I needed to set up a player side one. We'll probably switch this over to commands or something like that, so we could say performance. There's a new technique that I have been experimenting with, CCTV Craft, which has been way better for performance and stuff using functions. So we'll probably be able to run a procedure through functions through commands, but we need to do a little bit of work later on. But what I needed to do was set up client-side variables so we could pass the world variables over, and then that way we could basically see this in the display. So overlays and GUIs are only on client side, so our world side variable for the Celsius and Fahrenheit would not be able to be updated in that particular thing. So what we needed to do was basically carry it over to the client side player localized variable, and then we can basically go ahead and display that with these particular procedures as text in the overlay. So now we can finally make the overlay, and I'm going to set up the text. I'm just going to make sure that the offset is at the top left corner. I'm going to place that over here. I'm going to enable snapping so I can basically put it in there perfectly in the corner, and then I'm going to create another one for the Fahrenheit. So once I've done that, I could basically just add a couple variables for indication for what temperature is which, and then I knew which one I'll be testing in game. So once I've gotten that done, I needed to tweak the code a little bit. There was a whole bunch of stuff that I ended up doing that needed a whole bunch of tweaking and stuff like that, but I think I might have gone over that later in the video. So basically this is the new procedure for the temperature conversion. Again, I'm not sure if it works, so we'll probably go over that in a future video and see how it all works. So I adjusted the season time as well, so those are the variables for the season time. All right, so in game, basically at the top corner, you can see the Celsius and Fahrenheit. So we can see that it's basically calculating the Celsius and Fahrenheit. And I'm just basically setting the time to a new time each time, and trying to adjust the time, trying to figure out what is the high point and what is the low point. And I'm not entirely sure if it's working for the high and low points, so I might need to adjust it. So I need to take more time to figure out if this system is actually working and how it's going to impact the crops and stuff like that. Obviously night's going to be a lot colder than day, so we might need to adjust the temperature a little bit more. I did notice that around 0 it gets pretty cold, and or hot, one of the two. And I was just testing the temperatures to see if those were working for each season, as well as we have the icon on the side there. We can kind of see that it's working for the temperature. It does increase and decrease based on the time of day and the other thing, but I still need to make sure that it's actually working for the original idea. But outside of that, if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out.